Hi, hello everyone. My name is Matevž Straus, and today I'm here to talk about ID20 and our approach to taking heritage one step further. This webinar is part of a series of webinars that we are preparing within the project that we are running here at ID20. The project called Baths, Gothic Churches and Miners' Houses, in short, RE, is co-founded by the European Union through the program Creative Europe. And today I'm gonna try to explain to you how we at ID20 approach cultural heritage, what are our learnings, what is the context of our work, and how it all began. So everything starts in Idrija. So Idrija is a town in western Slovenia, somewhere halfway between the border with Italy and Ljubljana. And Idrija emerged at the end of 15th, especially in the 16th century, as a mining town. Through the hundreds of years, decades and hundreds of years, it has been growing, but keeping this traditional mining outlook. So as also visible here on this image, the major parts of the flat areas in the basin are dedicated for industrial areas, for technological activities of mercury mining, while the hills on the edges are dedicated for housing. And you see a special type of housing that I will be mentioning later on. But as the city grew above the surface, it also grew below the surface. So Idrija, as said, was a mercury mining town, and it was one of the largest or most important mercury mining town in the world, just behind the world's largest in Almaden in Spain. So throughout the centuries, as the city grew above, the city also grew below the surface, and the tunnels, in a way, are located under the whole, almost the whole of the town itself. But of course, all the development in mercury mining at some point had to end. And this started happening in the 70s, when the price of mercury started falling. The price fell significantly. And these were the first indications that the mine is about to stop and that the mine is about to close. So the mine currently is closed. The mercury production has been stopped, and the city itself has redirected into new industry. So nowadays, Idrija is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, especially for its mercury mining heritage, but it's also an automotive industry location where major parts of jobs are located or can be found in automotive industry and in related industries. As said, the cultural heritage of mercury mining is significant. It has been inscribed on UNESCO's World Heritage List, where basically major parts of the downtown of the old town center are inscribed on the list, with, of course, important industrial areas as well, former industrial areas as well. Besides that, also Idrija Lace is a part of the UNESCO intangible cultural heritage, especially because it's very much related or connected with the development of mining. So while men have been mining, women took upon lace making as an additional source of income for their families. Another important element of Idrija's heritage is also the Idrija calligraphy filled pasta. This is a special type of filled pasta found only here in Idria, and very much characteristic in the past and today of Idria's cuisine and gastronomy. The fourth element of Idria's culture heritage can be found under the umbrella of the UNESCO Global Geopark Idria, which comprised of the town itself, but it's also its surroundings, its natural surroundings with several geological important features that are and some not related to the creation of mercury ore here in Idria. But of course, as every city and every story cannot be only positive or only so simple, it is similar with Idria. So Idria is facing, after the closure of the mine and the redirection of the major parts of employments into automotive industry, it is facing population decline. This population decline is perhaps statistically not so significant, but looking at the ratio of young people and senior citizens, the contrast is becoming starker and starker. And in the past decades, we have seen how Idria has basically changed into a shrinking town, a town with declining cultural offer, with declining public life, with, of course, troubles of maintaining its public infrastructure, as, of course, also the working age the average age is increasing, and as the number of people working is decreasing as well. So this is the context in which we, me, my colleagues back then, in a way, found ourselves. So just leaving the studies or being at the end of our studies, we somehow came to a realization that perhaps there is no future for us in Idria, because we could not find jobs, since we didn't want to work in automotive industry, and this is when we thought that the future of Idria could be something different, and that maybe we, with our energy and our ideas and our commitment, can change something and potentially create a future for us and our colleagues in Idria. So in 2012, we've established an association called Idria 2020 to mark our vision towards into the future, to show that we want to shape the future, and that 2020 could potentially be the reference year that we want to have in our minds when we are improving our town, and of course the conditions to live and create in our town. So we've started with several voluntary activities. So these were small projects. Mainly, it was our engagement in the evenings, during the weekends. But the main idea was to try and find a space for ourselves in various sectors. We've been innovating in the entrepreneurial way. So, for example, here is a line of jewelry, lace jewelry that we have created with several designers, and in a way launched as a business. Previously, for example, here you've seen the visits to the mine that we have been organizing. So those were the visits, not to the touristic mine that exists in Idria since the 90s, but these were special type of visits outside of the touristic routes, special experiences which in our idea was a way to provoke maybe, but also show potential in other type of activities that would better address the wants and the wishes of the millennial generation that was at that age coming into the working age. One of the activities or one of the endeavors that we have embarked quite quickly was also a youth center in Idria. So we've identified the need to have a youth center in Idria. So Idria 2020, our association, was one of the co-founders of a network organization called Youth Center Idria, which let's say we've been the driving force when it comes to ideas, when it comes to concepts and discussions and negotiations with the municipality. But of course, others, NGOs, youth organizations have joined, and only through the voluntary work and several actions, voluntary work actions, we've been able to transform a former monastery where the municipality has allowed us to become the tenants free of charge. We have managed to transform that house into a youth center and establish a new organization that since then, even today, is still organizing daily activities for young people, for several volunteers. And those activities comprise of both entertainment, education, informal education, different trainings, opportunities to learn more, but also many opportunities to get new skills, to test out, and of course to implement the ideas that the young people have. Related to that topic, we've been at that time also very much involved with the youth strategy, preparing the youth policy for the municipality of Idria. And these policies were always based on the real data that we have been gathering from statistical sources, but also through interviews, through questionnaires. And these strategies in a way showed the path forward for the municipality when it comes to the youth policy. In 2016, we've in a way enlarged our scope. So instead of only focusing on one house, for example, the youth center, or on one area as the youth policy, we've wanted to think about Idria as a town in the future. And basically, we have organized a participatory urbanistic workshop with a number of people, more than 30 of them, many of them coming from different countries. It was people from 7 different countries, but also many locals joined to rethink what is the future of our town. Basically, the work has been concentrated around 3 locations in Idria, each of them related with cultural heritage of Idria. And this workshop that at the end resulted in more than 60 proposals, a general vision for the town, and a structure how to implement those proposals, and the linkage between those proposals. In a way, this final result then was transcribed both in different publications, in different exhibitions that we had both in Idria and in Ljubljana, the capital of Slovenia. And later on, some of the ideas or the spirits of that workshop have been transcribed also into the official strategy of the municipality of Idria. For our work in those years, we have been, in a way, always at the edge and always innovating, and thus also many of the awards that we've received show that our approach of combining different sectors, not solely looking at heritage or solely at the architecture or solely at entrepreneurship, but by merging them, we've created something impactful, for which, of course, the awards also stands for. But it was in 2018 when we've got the European Social Innovation prize. So we've won at the European Social Innovation competition. And our idea of having heritage as the backbone of the development of such a town or in other towns, in a way, also kicked our activities forward. And it was, in a way, confirmation for us that we should continue our activities, but invest more time, more dedication, more hours into our work. So this is when the ID20 has been established as a professional organization. The idea was that we need to spend more time on our visions, and this can only be done if we do it in a professional manner, meaning people being employed, and not do this only as a side project when there's some free time. So we wanted to turn a hobby into jobs for us, for our colleagues. So this is how ID20 Institute have been created, and we formed 3 sectors or 3 pillars into which we wanted to in which we wanted to, of course, stress our endeavor. So by merging entrepreneurship, marketing, and architecture, we saw that we could mostly contribute to the sector of cultural heritage. So meaning that at the beginning, we've, for example, in the field of marketing, we've been creating designs for several products here from the local environment, all related to cultural heritage. We've created the official logo of the Idrija destination. We've competed at several architectural competitions. But throughout the whole of these activities also came somehow to realization that we need to especially work with young people and people here in Idrija. So that the only way to create a future for areas as Idrija and similar other rural areas is in retaining the young talent here. So in offering the chances for them to work, but not only in retaining, but also attracting young people. So this is again where we saw that cultural heritage could be an important area of innovation, both in a let's say more entrepreneurial way as a value creation activity, but also as an identity creation activity. And of course, we've known the data that shows how investment in cultural heritage is generating jobs, not only in Slovenia, but across Europe. So basically showing that this is the right way further. Of course, we didn't always understood cultural heritage and still don't understand cultural heritage only as an economic value. So we don't only cherish cultural heritage for its economic value, but also for its social, cultural, environmental, political values that it brings. And this is still our modus operandi today, to see the merging of those values together, where maybe compared to many other organizations in our field, we've stressed the economic aspect a lot, especially because we feel that cultural heritage sector often forgets about the economic values, or in many cases it even looks at the sales, business, entrepreneurship as something negative in that sector. While we believe that this heritage cycle or turning understanding of cultural heritage into valuing it, caring of it, and enjoying it can be an economic activity as well, especially because many of the cultural heritage activities, so many of the rituals, many of the the monuments, many of the objects of cultural heritage have been a part of economic activities throughout the centuries. So we saw that this potential for heritage-inspired entrepreneurship in several sectors. Often, of course, we only think about tourism and travel. So we directly think of tourism, cultural tourism as a bridge between cultural heritage and business. But we saw also many other opportunities and still see them. For example, one of those is education, but not necessarily formal education. It's in offering trainings, courses, online courses, different webinars, paid educational activities. And we've seen how this is across Europe and abroad and outside, where this sector is growing. So the skills of learning heritage skills, this is something that is being searched for in several locations. Another topic very much relevant is the storytelling. So the whole sector of gaming, movie production, book publishing, of telling stories. This is very much related to entrepreneurship, to cultural heritage, or it takes inspiration from cultural heritage. That's why we saw it as an important element of heritage-inspired entrepreneurship. Another aspect is gastronomy and agriculture. Of course, many of the dishes that we're having today or have been consumed throughout the centuries are very much related to the culture of the people, of the places, also of course the relationship between the man and the nature in those places. So we see this as an important economic sector as well. Then it's the events and festivals, where different events, festivals related to cultural heritage or related to folklore or related to arts and crafts are gathering and are bringing several people and can be an economic activity. Community building as well, of course, maybe to a lesser degree an economic activity, but still an important area of development, where maybe, of course, the business model is more B to G, so working with the government, working with the public sector to build a community. Then it's the arts and crafts, as I've already mentioned. Arts and crafts are a heritage activity that merges with the modern creativity to create new products that can be sold at several occasions. The antiquities and art markets, again, another area of selling old things, heritage objects in many cases. And this is, again, another sector. And the last one, the ninth one, the real estate, where, again, we see how cultural heritage is a value-adding activity, value-adding characteristics, even in real estate. Of course, if communicated, if valorized in the right way. So coming from this entrepreneurship point of view to cultural heritage, we've started already back then in 2020 with organizing hackathons on cultural heritage, where groups of young people put together in different task groups had to solve the challenges and competed one against another to come up with the best ideas how to solve those challenges. Most of those activities, most of the hackathons, actually all of the hackathons that we have organized, they have been organized in a hybrid way, with only a small part of people being physically present together, while the participants were located at their own homes. Of course, because this all was a time of COVID-19 measures, and the gatherings were to a larger degree limited. So besides the heritage hack, we've also run heritage lab, let's say a more incubation program, working with smaller groups, smaller initiatives, smaller initiatives having great ideas how to transform cultural heritage, or on how to work in the field of cultural heritage. But throughout of those activities, things started to clarify that maybe it's not just about helping others, but it's also offering opportunities to work with the local community, with young people on several activities. And especially we've strengthened this storytelling approach of our activities. So we are saying that we are taking heritage one step further through stories. And I want to go with you through some of those topics and stories, starting with the built heritage. First, I show you a video. So Idria and its surrounding is characterized with the steep valleys, with rivers, forests, and among those, a very unique type of housing. So those are Idria miners' houses. As you can see here from some of the examples that we've put here, they're very much similar to each other because they're all fit into one special architectural type of housing, only present here in Idria. So throughout the centuries, but especially at the end of the 18th and the beginning of the 19th centuries, this special type of housing developed here in Idria, and is characterized by the steep roofs, the symmetric facade, small windows, always entrance to the house from the side, and always the houses are somehow put into the slope, around the downtown of Idria and the industrial area of Idria. So in 2018, we've started by counting such houses because surprisingly, no one did this before us. And we were surprised because we've counted more than 100 of them. Of course, they were in different shapes, and many of them, they have been transformed, renovated in maybe without the feeling for the cultural heritage. So many of them are also hard to recognize as Idria miners' houses, but still 100 is a large number. So we've started with help, and many of them are owned by private owners. So we started by offering training, by offering consultation, architectural help to the private owners of those houses, in a way to foster the appreciation for such houses, but also to help the owners to do some specific changes and improvements to their houses. After a few years of working on those activities, we've decided to buy one of the houses. So to acquire one of the houses to be our living lab, to be our place where we can implement the activities on our own with the people that want to join our activities, but also to work on one of the houses continuously. So this is how we've decided to acquire House Gisser, 200-year-old house, a typical Idrian house, and one of the few with many of the typical characteristics. So the house was abandoned for 20 years at the moment when we've acquired it. So we've invited locals, but especially European volunteers, to join us on this mission. And since then, in that year and in the coming years, young people have been joining us on various activities here in Idria at House Gisser to first clean the house, clean the surroundings, but slowly also improve the house itself. So I have some videos here to show you what we've been working on. So this is a video from the first year. So you've seen in the first year, we've mostly focused on one of the small houses there. It's called Lusthaus, just adjacent to the Gisser house. And we've been working there with volunteers that had zero experience in wood, with working with wood. They had also very few experience with any physical manual work. So for them, this was also an educational activity where they've acquired many of the new skills, but especially since then they better understand what it requires, what it's needed, and what does it mean to do such activities. Further on, we've moved on to other activities. So if you've seen, this was a short walk through the house. All of the new things that you've seen in the video have been created by the volunteers, with volunteers, and we are always trying, of course, to keep as much as the old materials, the old elements inside, and only intervene when there is needed, often with recycling the materials, often with helping, often with reusing the things that we find at the house. So currently we are running this year, for example, we have been running 2 activities at the house, one of them being the gastronomic theater experience, which is a combination of a theater and gastronomic event for a small group of people, for 10 people. And this was developed based on the findings of the house, the stories of the house, and it very much resonates with how the miners used to live in that house, but in a way told in a modern storytelling approach. The second activity that we have organized this year was a masterclass at the house, with the house, where we've been basically learning lime plaster, 3D digitalization, and storytelling approaches. And all these activities have been part of the baths, Gothic churches, and miners' houses projects, as told or as said at the very beginning, co-financed by European Union, but also part of the Go 2025 European Capital of Culture activities. So what is our long-term plan here? Of course, we see that the renovation needs to continue. The house currently is not habitable, still not. So we need to continue with renovation, also to do some major renovation works that cannot be done with the volunteers themselves. And we see the house, of course, as an accommodation, as a place for living, as it has always been. Just that we want to here combine the touristic living for tourists, accommodations for tourism, with the artists in residence programs, which could be run outside of the main season. And this is something that we are starting in 2025, where our first artist will be staying here with us in the house. Moving to a second theme of our activities is the gastronomy. Since 2021, we are the main organizer of the Idrija Žlikrofy Festival. So of the festival of the dish that I have mentioned at the very beginning. So Idrija Žlikrofy Festival is a one-day event. It was the first time organized in 2012 by the Idrija Cerkno Development Agency, the first time. But today it has grown and it has 6,000 visitors with up to 20, even more providers of different dishes, with 35 different sauces to Idrija Žlikrofy. So Idrija Žlikrofy, the traditional dish, is served in various versions, keeping the traditional recipe for the filled pasta, but experimenting and being creative with the side dishes, with the sauces. So basically, it is a very large outdoor picnic for the people of Idrija, and especially also for the people of the whole region and the whole Western Slovenia, since the attractiveness among those groups is growing. An important element here, of course, is the sustainability. As with all events, large events are creating waste. So we've, at the very beginning, realized that, and we've started to implement several of the measures. One of them being the biodegradable cutlery, the reusable and reusable cups. All the waste is strictly separated, and larger parts also later on recycled. So I show you a video of it.
Zajčko, Zus, malo pa strahati. Fini.
Skratka, zakaj idrijski žlikrofi? Eden izmed najlepših praznikov, kjer se promovira tudi kulturna dediščina.
Medva smo prišla provat vse žlikrofe.
Prvič v Idriji na prazniku žlikrofov.
Je zelo dober, dobri žlikrofi, muska in pijača.
Vidi, je špica. Tlej imaš za jesti, imaš za piti, imaš ikebano kot ti vode, to je to, kaj še rabiš?
Top scena, ulijete, no vam žal.
So yes, this is the Festival of Idrija Žlikrofi, one of the main activities of our organization and one of the larger events also. But towards it, there are also several smaller events that are organized before the main one or after one. Many of them as a preparatory activities, many of them as a thank you for our partners. And in those of the activities, we really want to work with young people, with different groups, and then at the festival showcase their work. So this is one of the examples of the pre-activities where we have been working with the young people here in Idrija, cooking old recipes and engaging them to rethink the old recipes in a new way. At the same time, also learning how to film, how to make videos, how to make TikTok reels and so on. So we've merged the digital skills with the gastronomic or culinary skills. Additionally, in the area of gastronomy, one of the important projects and important initiatives that we've initiated is the Go Pasta initiative. Go Pasta is an activity that is happening in the year before and in the actual year of the European Capital of Culture of Nova Gorica Gorizia in 2025. And we want to use this opportunity when the European attention, media and cultural attention will be giving to Nova Gorica. We want to use this opportunity to showcase the traditional dishes of Idrija on one side and Kherson from Carnia, from Italy, on the other side. So within that project, we've acquired a food trailer with which we are basically traveling around the regions on both sides of the border and promoting Idria calligraphy and Kherson. That said, we're also organizing smaller special gastronomic events in different venues, but always related to the cultural heritage, with the stories of cultural heritage that we want to tell. And as mentioned, one of those stories is also the story of the Osolemia Osonsemoya gastronomic theater experience. It's a original play created within the project RE, and co-founded by European Union, which tells a story about a fictional family living in 1922. And this story is set in the Haus Gisser. It's happening in front of the visitors, in front of a small groups of visitors. So the whole experience is very much intimate. And this is a story of a forbidden love, of course, of hope, rebellion. And in many ways, it is based on historical research about the house, about the life of miners. And it's also based on original cooking book that was found in the house itself. So this is one of the events that we are organizing throughout the year. In 2024, we have organized it 18 times, and we plan to organize it next year in 2025 as well. So moving to a new topic, what we also find very much an important venue of our research is the digital nomadism. As mentioned at the very beginning, so it's not only about retaining the young people, but it's also about attracting young people to such regions. And we see that digital nomads can be those people that arrive, bring new knowledge, bring new perspectives, and especially can cherish the cultural heritage of Idria or any other similar place. So our research in the digital nomad lifestyle has started 2 years ago. We are continuing it, and especially we see the links then with the Gisser house and as an important element where digital nomads, for example, could also work and could also create their own projects here in Idria. Moving on to the next topic is industrial culture. So in 2021, it was the first time that we have decided to organize a festival of industrial culture. And what do we mean with that? With industrial culture, basically, we describe the broader sector of the mentality of the culture of the people living in industrial areas, industrial and mining areas, because we believe that people living in such areas are different. They have different personal traits. For example, work is an important value for them. Work ethic, for example, is much stronger. Also, they very much cherish solidarity, equality, and fight against those both with rebellion, but also through humor, through sarcasm, which is showing the inequalities of the daily lives in a fun way. And this is what we want to cherish at the Festival of Industrial Culture. So in 2021, we've organized it for the first time. And here I just play a short video for you to understand how we approach it. The festival is called Betrip, meaning to being in activity. And the first Betrip was organized within the Francis Shaft, one of the shafts of Idria. The festival basically combines music, combines installations, art installations, combines exhibitions, talks, discussions directed towards different type of people, young people, creatives, but also older generations. And the main idea is to mix them and try to, in a way, search for connections between the groups, and unite them across the idea of being of Idria's culture, of Idria's industrial culture. We organize the festival biannually, so last year was the second time that we have organized it in a different venue. This time it was the smelting plant of Idria Mercury Mine. Again, workshops, exhibitions, music performances. In last year, the main theme was the theme of out of date, so the feeling of being out of use. A feeling that is prevalent in, of course, industrial areas, in everywhere where technology is developing faster than the skills or the physical realities of the buildings and so on can follow. So the next Petrib Festival will be organized next year in 2025 to also interlap with the European Capital of Culture of Nova Gorica Gorizia. To conclude, or maybe the last part of my presentation, I want to talk about how important it is to share what we learn, or share the learnings, the information that we gather through our activities to different audiences. So already as an association in 2012, we've started with creation of a magazine. So we are publishing a magazine. It's called TBI, standing for This Will Be Idria, in short in Slovenian, To bo Idria. And this magazine is a high quality magazine that is only published once a year, or in some cases every 2 years or every 3 years, depending on the availability of the resources, also our willingness, or our basically having enough time to prepare it. And this is a magazine that basically tries to depict what interesting is happening within the town of Idria, something that people should be careful about. The second medium of education or sharing our knowledge is a website called Duri. Duri is a Slovenian name for doors or for entrance, and basically Duri is a portal. It's run by us together with other non-governmental organizations from other parts of Slovenia, with Dobra Pot and Kibla, and basically it's intended for enthusiasts for cultural heritage in Slovenia who want to learn more, who want to get new contacts, who wants to, in a way, scale up their activities, network, and of course find relevant resources on how to do that. So the platform as itself has various information, but especially it's hosting online courses that we have been recording in the previous years, and that also this webinar that we are now part of will be shared there. These webinars are and these courses are an important way of sharing our information. So maybe I just show you a short intro to one of the courses.
Digitizacijo predmete iz fizičnih spreminjamo v digitalne. Tako ustvarjamo digitalne dvojčke, ki, če so res dobri, skoraj da ne odstopajo od fizičnih. Je pa na vseh nas, katerim je dediščina mar, da poskrbimo, da z razvojem digitalnega sveta dediščina ne izgine v pozabo.
As said, there are several of the courses that are offered on various topics, from digitalization, as said just recently, to renovation of old houses, to researching of and documenting cultural heritage, recording of oral heritage. So various activities offered there, and the platform itself enables users to track their record, to track their progress, and of course always to continue on where they have stopped. Another element of our activity is also a podcast that we have started during COVID, when this was especially relevant, and it's called Odstrta dediščina, unhidden or uncovered heritage. And this podcast basically is again a collection of stories, of talks with people that we find interesting and relevant.
Dober dan in lepo
to share,
pozdravljeni
to
v
talk to.
našem podcastu Odstrta dediščina. V njem bomo z zanimivimi gosti razmišljali o potencialih kulturne dediščine. Skozi podcast vas bova vodila Urša Mihevc in Matevž iz društva ID20 in
So this is just an intro to the podcast, and of course, if you understand Slovenian, I invite you to follow us and to hear to some stories, so some podcasts. So that's in short. That would be it. I tried to cover the whole spectrum of our activities, which I know it's relatively wide, and in many cases also very much dependent on the funding that we are receiving. So we are advancing with some of the streams or with some of the pillars of our activities faster than with others. It very much also depends, of course, on the interest of the people that are part of our organization, because we still believe that it should be the personal drive, it should be the inner drive that should drive the development of the organization, and also to only through that we could tackle the challenges that we have set to address from the very beginning on. So this was, as I said, an overview of our activities, but of course I am always open to discuss it further, to explain more. So please do contact me if this was somehow relevant to you, or if you see any potential to join our activities, to help out, or to just collaborate on some activities where maybe we can contribute to your work. Thank you, and I hope that we can hear each other soon. Bye-bye.